Milo, is that you?
There, I think I got it. Hi there, AML Nation. Hey there, AMLers. Hey there, all you dudes and dudettes out there in the AML Nation. I gotta come up with a snappy start when I'm by myself. I don't have any kind of, hey, what's happening? Hey. So anyways, today is April the 30th. Today is, don't tell me, today is Thursday, April the 30th. I'm gonna double check that. I don't even remember what day it is. Things are getting a little fuzzy at this point. Today is Thursday, April the 30th, the last day of the month. April is over. We're now headed into May. It's been a long April. It may have been the longest April. I'll check the records. I'll see what the records say. So today is the last extra podcast. The last was happening for a while. I still have a bunch to publish, which I will publish over the next couple of months. There's still everything here, as you know. We keep all of our podcasts in the refrigerator to keep them cool and keep them fresh. So anything that I've recorded previously to this day and will still be fresh regardless of when I play it. It's always next week on the old AML network. But today we have kind of a really interesting... I thought today would be a really cool... I'm going to go back to... Here's the deal. I'm going to go back to 2 podcasts a week because I'm getting poofed. It was a lot of fun doing extras, and I think it helped a lot of folks out, but I'm getting poofed, so I'm going to go back to the regular 2 episodes a week. And I thought this would be a really good way to end. Because this is, I was talking to our buddy, one of our newest buddies here at the old AML Nation, Dave Abeles. He was struggling because the general manager of New Jersey Transit, the senior vice president, and general manager of New Jersey Transit, a fellow named Ray Kenny, recently passed away due to the coronavirus. And it had a profound impact on our very own Dave Abeles, who really only knew the gentleman for a short period of time. But Ray made a significant impact on Dave's life. And I decided it would be kind of therapeutic for Dave if he talked about it, and he was willing to talk about it on the air, so I recorded it. It's about 35-40 minutes long, and it's very touching, and I think it's a good way to end this month. And I figured we'd just get back to our 2-a-week podcasts and go from there, see what the future has to hold. But in the meantime, I thought this was this discussion I had with Dave certainly moves me, and I was pretty confident everybody else would want to hear it too. So that's what we're going to do. The next little bit is me and Boy George. We call him Boy George here around at the old studios. Talking to Dave Abeles about his friend and boss, Ray Kenny, and the impact that he had on Dave's life and his kids' lives before he unfortunately passed away at the age of 69. Subway chime. Go. Okay, so this particular episode is going to be unedited. Most of them are getting unedited these days because we're getting them out so fast because of all the carrying on. So one of our good friends, our new good friends that was come on to the AML scene recently, Dave Abeles, who was all his 37-part, 3-part trilogy, was very popular, and everybody feels like they got to know Dave really well. And now we're in the middle of this COVID thing, and he's, what's your job again, Dave?
I'm the General Superintendent of Rail Stations for NJ Transit Rail Operations.
And lately you did a Facebook Live, and we were talking about that. And as we were talking about all that, you sent me a text, which I don't think you'll mind if I reveal, but I found it very moving, to be honest with you, that we've already got ourselves to a point where we're as good enough friends that you sent me this text. Let me just scroll back here a little tiny bit here.
Yeah, go right ahead.
And he says, bad news. The general manager, my boss's boss, who was sick with COVID, has passed. His boss has it too, and several others at the top at NJ Transit, and then you just put darkness. And I thought, boy, here's a guy that's just been thrown right into the middle of it, and he's a model railroader, and he's somebody that we've come to know and love here at the old AML Nation. So I asked David if he'd like to talk about it, and you thought maybe you would. It might do you a little bit of good to talk and tell everybody it's a bit of a struggle right now.
Yeah, I mean, and it's we talked a little bit about it on the unedited versions, recently, but this is it's a new experience. Like so much in this whole epidemic outbreak has been a new experience for so many people, and I'm again going back to the 37-part 3-part trilogy. We talked about that I lost my mom when I was in high school, that I lost my sister shortly after college. My dad passed 4 years ago. And so there has been I'm fairly experienced, I should say, with dealing with major loss. Doesn't make it any easier. It doesn't make me, a better person necessarily. But it's just an experience that, it's part of life. Death is part of life. And, I've worked for NJ Transit for 20 years, come up through the ranks, started as a field bridge engineer, doing bridge inspections and crawling through culverts and, having to wash out my railroad boots because they only paid for one pair a year and they're full of mud and, creosote and all that kind of stuff. And all the way up now to having an office at the headquarters building and being one of the people that's on the morning call 5 days a week. And at this point, somebody that's on the COVID call, we have a separate call in the afternoon for the update on the COVID crisis and how we're handling that. And so, in 20 years, up through the ranks, you've got lots of bosses and you have lots of bosses. And on the railroad, there's, when you start out, there's bosses. There's 5, 6, 7, 8 layers in some cases. So you don't have a lot to do with the general manager. Someone that's the czar of the railroad. This is the person that's feared at the top. They make the decisions. They have a final say on the human resources promotions and who gets furloughed and laid off, and labor relations and all the negotiations. A lot of moving pieces for them. It's an important job. It's well compensated, and in very much in a military structure. This is your general. This is your 5-star general who's in charge of everything that the railroad is: the trains, the people, the infrastructure, the equipment, the public relations, the budgeting, safety, scheduling, everything that the railroad is goes through the general manager's office. So it's a big deal. And in the last couple of years, as I've been fortunate to be promoted in the ranks a couple times. Of course, the general manager changes on a regular basis. It's not generally a job that people go from to take another job unless they are forced to do so. It's a top level job. And so it's a lot of people with a lot of seniority. A lot of people retire and never work again after that job. Some maybe are forced out and have to go to another railroad or what have you. But in our case, Raymond Kenny, is a fellow with more than 30 years of experience on the Long Island Railroad and retired. If I want to say might have even been 40 years. He might have retired with 42 or 43 years of experience on the Long Island, which is right across the river from New Jersey, and one of the railroads that we deal with regularly because of Penn Station, New York, which is where Amtrak owns it. But NJ Transit, Long Island Railroad, and Metro North all run into and around that station. And so there's a lot of Metro North is actually mostly Grand Central, but in any case, there's a lot of coordination at New York Penn. And so Long Island's a railroad we're very familiar with. Historically, looking back over the way things were taken care of over the years, it was a railroad that was either built by or absorbed into the Pennsylvania Railroad, the mighty Pennsylvania, and it became very much a Pennsylvania property with Pennsylvania-style locomotives, Pennsylvania-style signals, the keystone around the logo. All of this was So it was very much a Pennsylvania Railroad influenced, even dominated little company, and one of the most densely populated regions in the United States and really the world is that part of Long Island. So an important railroad. And so Ray came up through the ranks there. I believe he started as a tower operator, throwing switches for trains, and came through the rail service planning department. And then retired as a vice president who had acted as president for a while. And then when he didn't get the full-time job, he either retired or took a buyout or what have you. Then he ended up in the consulting world for a couple of years. And after that, for a couple of years, he was tapped by the NJ Transit executive management as the new general manager of rail operations that succeeded Bobby Lavelle. Bobby Lavelle being the former general manager. He had come from Amtrak years ago, but had spent many years in NJ Transit Mechanical at the shops where they fixed the locomotives and the cars, and then bumped his way to the top and became general manager for a couple of years there before he retired. So Ray's been at NJ Transit for about a year and a couple months, and quiet, introverted gentleman, never been married, no kids, a guy that really loved trains, and I think that was a mark that he'll leave on me. And pardon me as I sort of think through this, because I'm still sort of processing the whole thing. We've never had in my experience, 20 years, we've never had a general manager die while in office. And so this is somebody that affects everything you do, and he's gone. Snap of a finger. He's gone. And I was never not super friendly with him, but he's a guy that knew my kids. A couple times a year, I bring my kids to work. I call it Take Dem Clams to Work Day. DEMCLAMS. And the Clams nickname came from when it was just Susie and Teddy. Teddy was an infant. And the two of them would get along so well, and they'd be laughing at each other, and they're just adorable. And my mom, who passed away when I was in high school, she used to call us when we were little. She'd be like, "Oh, you guys are happy as clams. It's so much fun to watch you playing." And so that I remembered that as I was watching my own kids playing years later, and said, "Boy, they're happy as little clams. It's like Dos Clams." So I started to call them Dos Clams. And on Facebook, I put a post up, "Oh, Saturday morning with Dos Clams, giving Mama a break, took the kids to the train tracks," or what have you.
Right.
And then Pete came along. So now it's Trace Clams. And I'm like, no. It's just Dem Clams. Just that way it covers any combination of more than one. It should be fine. So away we go. So Take Dem Clams to Work Day happens a couple times a year. The kids look forward to it. They dress up. It's adorable. They Teddy and Pete both want to wear a tie because Dada wears a tie to work.
Oh yeah, that's
and
cool.
Susie puts a dress on, and we go up to the train station in Lebanon, New Jersey, where I live. We get on the train. The conductors get a hoot out of it, and the kids come to work with me for a couple hours. I usually take the vacation day because I'm maintaining kids all day. You can't really, do your job while you're chasing kids, but a lot of fun. And Ray, when I took the kids up the first time, again, about 8-9 months ago, Ray started to play games with my kids. I took them up to introduce them to him, thinking he'd be around. I caught him between meetings. And not only did he say hello, nice to meet you, with a smile, he flips his glasses on and off.
Right.
And covers his face. He plays peekaboo with Pete, who at the time was 2. And Pete's laughing in his little tie. "Oh, you guys should come in." So we go to the conference room. Rich Wisniewski works down the hall. He comes into the conference room. And here's Ray, the general manager of NJ Transit Rail Operations, a $3 billion company. He's the general manager of the rail operation. And he's sitting, he gets up out of his chair. He puts Susie, my oldest child, my daughter, in his chair. Teddy and Pete get chairs on both sides. I'm sitting with him. And here's Ray having a fake play meeting with my kids between his meetings. And I'm laughing, and I made sure to say, now I'm on vacation today, Ray. He's like, "Oh, I know, Bobby Driscoll, your right-hand man, was on the call. Don't worry about it. But I'm so glad you brought your kids in. It's so fun to meet them."
Yeah.
And Lionel, George, we were there for like 45 minutes. I mean, he had to go to a meeting after about half an hour. He's like, stay here, though. Enjoy yourselves. This is a better spot than your office. You got a much bigger table. And he would laugh. And he walked out. And sure enough, so we played in the conference room, like the rail operations general manager's conference room. It just, watching trains outside go across the dock draw on the Northeast Corridor. This is right at One Penn Plaza in Newark, in the headquarters building for NJ Transit. So just a special memory I've got. And, he never had kids. He was never married. But Ray loved trains. And all the general managers that I've known before him, consummate professionals, some were very gruff and brash. Some were more laid back. Some were family men, some were not, but all of them very competent managers, all of them very experienced in rail operations, all of them with 25, 30, 35 years working for railroads all over the country. Some of them internal, some of them from other railroads, but the experience was very common. But Ray took that experience and he combined it with the passion that we in this hobby share. Yeah. So, at one point he told Rich, "Oh, yeah, I've got pictures in that book, one of the Morning Sun books on the Long Island Railroad that Ray took out of the tower." And Ray has a photo credit. He was very proud of that in one of the Morning Sun books about the Long Island Railroad. Ray knew about the Onondaga Cutoff because Rich told him. And so every once in a while on the morning call, I'd get heckled because somebody has they have this little cheesy steam whistle on their cell phone and they forget to put it on mute.
Yeah.
So they're on the morning call and all of a sudden you hear, whoo, whoo. Just totally silly. And Ray, this is not even a month ago, says, Dave must be doing the call from his house because that sounds like his model train set. And I said, Ray, I jumped right on. I said, Ray, if that was my layout, it would have sounded a lot more realistic than that. And there was a couple of chuckles, and then we moved on. But that was the kind of guy Ray was. He loved trains, and in his quiet, introverted way, wasn't afraid to sit with that and be part of it. So his lasting legacy, in my mind, is going to be the gentle approach he had with my kids, and with all of his employees. Really, I mean, some people say he was soft and he wasn't rocking the boat, and certainly there's an element of truth to that. But the bright side of that is that he's a people person, and he really did. He was very gentle in his approach to people.
Sure. Can I make an observation?
You may.
So how long ago was this day that, with your kids at the headquarters?
Well, that one was probably, I could look at Facebook because I put it on Facebook when I did it. But roughly, I would say that was probably the one that was about 8 or 9 months ago. Okay. So just within the last year, you had a moment that one of those moments you have in your life when you, it's your job, but, he's the boss, he's the big boss. And it's one of those moments where you didn't expect it and it makes you feel warm and fuzzy inside because something you didn't expect happened. Ray made it happen. He made a human moment for you. He made a memory for you that you'll never forget ever. And you made a real connection with that person that day. And here you are now, less than a year later, and you're having to deal with, we're all trying to deal with the pandemic. You happen to be in a particular spot where it's very difficult. And I don't think you can, I think you need to realize that you made a real connection with him that day, and you felt like and now it's a lot more difficult than you would even realize. I think that's something that needs to be said. You've made a real connection with this person because of the way it's something that needs to be sat with. Yeah, because of the way he treated your children. You're sure he was your boss, sure he was the big boss, but he absolutely did not have to make the effort that he did with your children that day, and it made a real connection with you. And now here, just less than a year later, while you're trying to deal with all of this, one of the people that goes down is Ray, and you're kind of like, holy crap. It's very, very difficult. It's difficult and it's dark. I mean, it really dark. I find the term darkness to be very important in life. Because, thoughts and prayers, we'll be thinking about you. And those are nice sentiments, but I don't think that they necessarily convey the full energy of some of the stuff that goes on. And I think darkness carries a much deeper connotation. There's a much deeper potential to that word. And I think that's important because, look, you don't have to look hard to find real tragedy and real hardship.
No.
But here's another funny thing about Ray. So, we talked about the NJ Transit Heritage locomotive fleet. We have a Pennsylvania Railroad liveried Alp 46 electric engine. We've got an Alp 45, which is one of our dual modes, which is decked out in Erie Lackawanna livery, which is Rich's favorite. And then one of the original Central Railroad in New Jersey, the Jersey Central, CNJ was the reporting marks. CNJ GP40P, which has been rebuilt a couple different times and is still in service on NJ Transit, that we repainted back into a Jersey Central, a CNJ-inspired livery. The blue's a little bit different. It's a little bit more sparkly. It's got a little more personality to it. Instead of painting the CNJ logo on it and all that, those are all decals. But it's resplendent in some of its glory. It's just a good looking engine now. It's beautiful. So proud of it. Well, this whole program, I was very fortunate to be surrounded by people that were very powerful at the time, including Ray. And the conversation of our 40-year anniversary came up, and I said, it'd be really cool to do heritage units. And so I suggested it and then championed it, and the right people were involved, and they said, go ahead. And Ray's sitting there, and one of the women that was there was more powerful than Ray, and she was enthusiastic, and Ray, we got off the train, and I said, Ray, just want to make sure we're clear that I'm going to proceed with this. It sounded like he's like, I think it's great. Go ahead. And so Ray's blessing it was required for this project. And I don't know that a previous person would have allowed the kind of dedicated time that it takes to make something like this happen in a couple of weeks, because they love being a railroader. They love the company, but they don't necessarily love trains. Ray loved trains just like us. And as a result, we've got these amazing heritage engines. Without a doubt, due to the fact that he was okay with it, was excited to see it.
How old was he?
I'd have to look at the numbers. I believe he was 68.
Okay.
And he'd come out of retirement to lead transit during this last push to get the positive train control, the PTC, activated. So that's, he definitely, he had a full career on the railroad, a couple of years consulting, and then this last stint, a year and a couple months on NJ Transit. So I'll remember without a doubt the way he interacted with the kids and how that made me feel. It's an excellent point,
sure.
Lionel.
Yeah,
and I'm gonna and those heritage units. One of my coworkers who loves trains too. He texted me a picture just today. He was on the property doing an inspection of the station on the Northeast Corridor, and he ran into the Pennsylvania Railroad Heritage Unit. It was on one of the trains on the corridor today, and he took a picture of it. He's like, in Ray's memory, this thing still looks great. So much fun to run into these things when I'm doing my work. And it gives me chills. It's like, yeah, like that's why we did this.
Yeah.
That's why we did this. Heritage can pull people together. And I think that Ray, in his quiet way, he did a pretty incredible job in a difficult time of pulling some people together.
And did you know that he had gotten sick, or did it just all of a sudden come as a shock to you, or what?
Well, he marked off, and he leads the morning call, and he takes a lot of pride in doing that himself. So when he wasn't there for 2 days in a row, somebody asked, "So where's Ray?" Because the rumor was out that he was sick, and the people running the call said, "We're not at liberty to discuss other people's conditions." With the United States has these privacy laws called HIPAA, and it's an acronym for, I forget exactly what it stands for, but basically means that you can't use someone's name in relation to their medical situation without their express written permission, etc.
Right.
So, but when that was said, oh well, we're not at liberty to discuss that. It's like, oh boy, so he's sick. And then shortly thereafter, there was actually a Facebook post talking about Facebook by his brother and a few people at Transit were friends with Ray on Facebook. And so Ray tagged his brother in the post. My brother's sick with COVID in the hospital. He's hanging in, but prayers would be appreciated. Anything we can do to make that happen. And so Rich actually texted me and said, "Oh boy, take a look at this." And so I took a look at it and said, "Oh boy, indeed. Like, that's scary stuff for a guy that's 68. It's been around the block a couple times." And so we knew of it, through that mechanism. So we weren't shocked. I mean, he was a guy that he'd been on the property every single day, all the way through the crisis, and had been going to all sorts of field locations to do it.
Yeah, you weren't
He was
shocked
doing
that
the morning.
you weren't shocked that he got it. You were
Well, right. Wasn't shocked that he got it. And, when you're 68 and you get it, you're automatically in the high risk category. And I was talking to my wife, Kristen, about this earlier today, because I'm still sort of struggling with the whole thing, of course. And, I haven't cried about it. Other people that have passed away that are close to me, I've cried pretty hard about it. I'm not afraid to cry at all about stuff that's critical to me. But this is different. And I don't, whether I do or don't cry doesn't necessarily have a whole lot to do with it, I don't think. But,
no, but I don't
talking to Kristen,
I'm sorry.
It's all right. Just, talking to Kristen, I said, like, Ray, he's a single guy. He lives in the house his parents left him. He's 68. Full lifetime doing what he believes in more than anything else in life. Railroading.
Yeah.
Comes back out of retirement and gets his dream job. I mean, what railroader doesn't want to be the president of a railroad? Doesn't want to be the general manager? He's starting to turn things around. There's definitely some positive movement at Transit. There's some problems, of course. Still no merit increase program, bunch of wages stuff, that there's a lot of consternation about salaries, but we're persevering, we're hanging in, we're making some progress on this PTC signal thing. There's definitely some tangible progress. So this guy comes out of retirement for something that he's probably more proud of than anything else he's done. Then he's leading the troops. He's on the ground. He's still handling all the calls. He's following up on stuff, and in the line of duty, while performing company service, as they say on the railroad, he comes down ill due to a danger that is the reason he's still out there doing his thing. And the fella ends up succumbing, passing away, because of what he was doing professionally.
Yeah.
And, there's a real masculine energy to that. There's a heroic side to that.
Yeah.
He didn't die cowering in some apartment someplace. No, he went down fighting. He went down swinging, as they say.
He John Wayne the thing out of there. He John Wayne'd it the whole way. But even at that, I mean, to be completely honest with you, Dave, and I mean, I'm pretty sure nobody's listening, so it really doesn't matter. But, like, I got to be honest with you. I've been pretty worried about your situation and Rich. And, I've met you guys just recently. And, I mean, man, you guys are about as close to the core of the volcano as you can get. So, I mean, you can't kid yourself. This has got to have some sort of effect on you as people start going down around you.
It makes it much more tangible. And Ray, 2 weeks ago, before he was labeled positive and before he was out of work, we lost our first rail operations employee, a guy named Joe Hansen. And Joe Hansen hit me fairly hard because Joe Hansen, out of our, several thousand train and engine employees, Joe Hansen is one of the regulars on the Raritan Valley line, on the line that I take to work.
Okay.
And another guy that met my kids on a take dem clams to work day. Another guy that knew me from, and again, you cross paths with conductors on your train. They're on a regular assignment, and work for managers isn't regular. So I'm usually on a train at, say 3 p.m. But if work goes long, I'm on the 4:45. If work goes long and I'm going to get a beer with a buddy after work, I'm on the 6 o'clock train. It varies depending on what you're doing. And so my paths would cross with this guy periodically. And just, there's some conductors that really don't seem to like people very much, and it makes you wonder why they're in a people job. There's other conductors that it's just a natural fit for their personality, and they're angels on rails. They comfort people. They make you feel happy to be there. They ask you about your family. Joe Hansen was the latter, a true gentleman, kind soul, and the kind of guy you're always happy to see. If he was your conductor, you knew you were going to have a safe trip. It's going to be fine. No animosity, no belligerence, wasn't picking fights with anybody, like wasn't sarcastic and nasty. No, just a good soul. Smile. Good to see you, sir. How's everything? It's like, man, just, and here's a guy, my understanding is he had an underlying condition, but he was our first COVID fatality on the railroad. So it's not just Ray. I mean, there's a bunch more that are sick right now. So yeah, this is it's the rim of the volcano. We're in the town. Chernobyl exploded a couple miles away, but the town that surrounds it is where we are.
So how do you square it with, you got your wife and your kids and you're going in there every day trying to keep the thing moving because that's what you want to do, is try to, like, how are you squaring it in your head? Or are you just struggling along day to day, trying to hour to hour probably at this point, eh?
You can't avoid some of that, Lionel. I mean, there's a reflection that goes on with each and every day because it changes every day. And Kristen, she's been anxious about it. There's definitely, and that changes every day. So there's a lot of moving parts. And, for me, I mean, first of all, I honestly think I had this thing back in January and February. All the symptoms, almost 6 weeks of just feeling run over and night fevers and the whole 9 yards. So, because I think it was out here earlier than I think a lot of people realize, just because it's such a dense area. In the New York metropolitan area, we absolutely had daily people coming here from Wuhan, China. That's a fact. So, but all that notwithstanding, it is what it is. It's still me coming home to my 3 young kids and my wife. And maybe we've had it, maybe we haven't. But we're all washing hands like crazy. The kids are, right now they're schooling from home. Everything's remote. Kristen works, actually her job right now is the kids in the house. Smart woman. She went to Cornell. So I'm usually wrong when we have arguments. It's great. I learn a lot from my wife, and that's a blessing and a privilege. But
there's one black.
Here, buddy.
There's one black mark in her file.
What's that?
She picked
me.
You. Yeah.
No, I picked her. She just said yes.
She just didn't protest.
Yeah. Exactly.
Oh my God, you guys are. Oh, I got all sorts of bruises on me from you guys tonight. But just kidding. But to be able to talk to her about this stuff means a great deal, obviously. But these are bewildering times, and so I come in, my shoes stay outside. We leave the groceries outside for a while. Everything from my work stuff goes in one particular cabinet, and everybody washes their hands before they touch me, and then they wash their hands after they touch me. We're being very careful, and also not to look. The bottom line is that when you're general superintendent of stations, you've got a lot of people to look over. I've got 150 people that I supervise, and $15 million in contracts. It's a $35 million annual budget. So there's a lot of moving parts, and I can make myself important in a lot of different environments because they're all stuff that I have to control when it comes to stations. So they're pretty much telling everybody to stay out of headquarters until such time as the virus is passed. So at this point, they enabled everybody to work from home. And I don't feel comfortable working from home exclusively because my people are out there on the front lines. And I don't think you can lead from a privileged perch. I think you have to be out there visible to your people. And so that's what I'm doing. I go to line stations. I go to our field offices, not the main headquarters building. I have been to Newark a couple times, to Newark Penn Station, where I do see some of my other managers, but we social distance. We're very careful. Again, lots of hand washing and no lunches together. We're not having meetings face to face, visible from 10 to 15 feet away, and conversations and a lot of phone meetings and Zoom meetings and stuff. So, being visible allows me to keep social distance. What really amazes me is the strength of character of my custodians and my contractors, all of whom are still cleaning toilets, are still putting roofs on, are still, torquing bolts where the two of them have to be next to each other. There's no two ways about it. They're splicing electrical cable in Newark Penn Station where you have to be next to each other. You can't social distance. They're wearing masks. We've given them protective equipment, but that is heroic. To put yourself in a situation to accomplish a task, a necessary task for the traveling public, however minimal they are right now, but to do it willingly and then come to work the next day and just keep on trucking, keep on rolling, keep on railroading, as they say. I am absolutely just blown away. I am so grateful for the quality of the people that work for NJ Transit rail operations, and bus operations and light rail. I mean, anybody that's still working right now and able to put something together with this crisis, looming in the background. But my hat's off to them. This is as deep water as we've seen. This is like the days after 9/11, except that it might go on for months and months. This is like, Hurricane Sandy, when it hit New Jersey 5 years ago, wiped out the tunnels, blew out a bunch of power lines, trees all over the place, no power for weeks, near anarchy in some places, in the urban areas where there was no power and no air conditioning and no food. But even that was a week. Well, we just passed the 5-week mark here. And it's going to keep on going.
Yeah.
So it's a whole different world. And it's you lose someone like Joe Hansen, the conductor, and then you lose Ray, the general manager, the guy who was calling the shots. And there's no one immune from this, guys.
No, that's the thing. Absolutely. And you can't ignore the fact that the person had an impact on your life, and you need to keep moving, but you need to also take a chance to, that's why we're talking about it here. And I mean, I'll stop talking about it now, but it's good for people to know. It's good for people to know in the AML Nation that there's some of us are actually right there at the, like I say, the rim of the volcano. I think everybody knowing that you enjoy the AML Nation will care about you, and will be wanting to know how you're making out, because it's tough slugging. It's tough slugging for everybody. It's not tough slugging for everybody. That's not true. It's not nearly as tough for me as it is for you. It's tough slugging for a lot of people, and a lot of other people are not having any fun, but they're doing their part by staying quiet and staying out of the way. And that's really, sometimes that's all you can do, is just stay out of the way and let the other people get on with the task at hand.
Yeah, this is where you have to trust other people, and you've got to, again, it's like I do on my little Onondaga cutoff. Let the experts be the experts, and we have to rely on each other when the darkness comes.
Yeah.
Which is one of the reasons other people are so important in life. There's just human relationships are indispensable when it comes to stuff like this. It's all we have is each other to hold on to and to depend on. And so it means the world to me that there's people out there listening and reflecting. Hey, raise your glass to Ray Kenny. He was a class act, and someone that we're going to remember for a long time.
Yeah. It's funny how life, it's funny, it's funny when you think about it. I guess probably the best thing I would say is, if I learned anything over the last few years, it's funny how the lives twist and turn. And, Ray had his career at the Long Island Railroad, and then he came back there. And if he hadn't come back to help run New Jersey Transit, you would have never had that moment with him with your kids, which is going to impact, which will stay with you for the rest of your life. And, he was only there a very short time, but maybe somehow that's going to have an impact on you. And maybe that'll have an impact on your kids going forward, that one of them will want to be part of the railroad because they remember that as a very small child. You got to remember that maybe your job was that day to take them clams into work and have Ray meet him, and everything just lined up. I mean, he was between meetings, and so you gotta cherish. You got to try to cherish. It's very sad that he's gone, but it's obviously he was one of the things he was meant to do is have an impact or have a moment with your kids and have an impact on you. So, as Jim Lincoln says, when one of my dogs passed away, Jim Lincoln, he said, don't be sad that it's over. Be glad that it happened.
Amen.
Absolutely. Could not agree more, man.
Yeah.
Amen. And just a remarkable. It is remarkable. It's a good point. I mean, it's that whole butterfly effect thing, right? That whole concept that every moment is precious.
Yeah.
And I think this is something, Lionel, with your run around the block with cancer and with dealing with the hardships and the mental strife and the sociological warfare that disease wages upon you and on the people around you. Like it gives you an appreciation for a day when nothing happens. Man,
yeah,
those are good days, guys. Those are
absolutely
really good days.
Absolutely.
No news. Well, when someone says, it's the same old.
Yeah.
It's like, all right.
Yeah.
All right. I mean, hey, whatever you need to say. I've never had a same old poo day. Never.
Nope. And that's
I've never had same poo different day. No. Every day is precious.
That's right.
There's never been a better time to be a human being than the opportunities that we have at our fingertips every single day. Yeah, we've got our problems. We've got our strife. This COVID thing is awful. And every death from something like this is an absolute tragedy to the families that are involved. Absolutely. Ray's included.
Yeah.
But Ray, he went down swinging. He went down doing what he'd dreamt of doing from when he was a little boy watching Long Island trains go by.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And it's he had an impact. You can't ignore the fact of the impact he had on you and your kids. So anyways, I just wanted to make sure you gotta hang in. I don't know. I don't have any, wish I had words of wisdom to impart on you, but I just felt like, I knew it was something that was bothering you. And I thought maybe you could talk about it here and let other people know, how you're feeling and stuff like that.
But I think that is wisdom, and that is words of wisdom. Lionel, you got to realize, like, your life experience, and again, we all see it in hindsight, but your life experience gives you a credibility on stuff like this that not everybody is able to have. And you said it. Sometimes you just gotta, you just gotta keep going. You gotta hang in there. That's what you started to say there. You gotta hang in.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're darn right. That is the secret to life.
It is.
Is that you have to hang in.
That's it, man.
Just send it. Send it.
Send it.
Yeah, just keep going.
Keep going.
That was my number one goal early. I figured, I remember thinking to myself, well, I guess I remember thinking I wasn't that sick, and I thought, well, I'll just keep going until I get sick. I guess I'll just keep going, and I was able to just keep going, and it's amazing what you can do when you do that, and that's all we can do. And anyways, I just thought it'd be good for you to talk about it, and I appreciate you thinking that you could talk about it here, and I know you'll touch a lot of people with this story because you're just one of those kind of guys that does. So,
yeah, it's a privilege to be able to talk about it, and I really appreciate you reaching out about it because it's still something that's very much a work in progress in my mind. It's a strange relationship. Boss is boss, somebody I haven't known that long, but someone that's definitely touched my kids, someone that's definitely touched the company that I've worked for 20 years, and someone that loves trains.
It's a Star Trek moment. It's a moment where this guy came into your life for whatever reason along the way while he was being rehired to help the railroad. One of the moments that was intended to be was him for interact with you and your family and your kids, and it's somehow going to help you and your family move forward because it's going to make an impact on you guys, and it'll make an impact on decisions you make, and maybe somewhere down the road, 20 years from now, you're going to do the same for somebody else, and it's an important thing. And the thing to remember is for it's not just, we're doing this because Ray, but like you say, there's all kinds of people right now that are suffering. Our very own Adam Pinellas, we love you, buddy. He's struggling along, and there's lots and lots of people. So I'm going to stop now. I think we'll all stop. We don't need to do any emails or any crap like that. We'll just quietly exit from the studio. What do you think, boys?
I think that's a very good way to cap it off. And you know what?
I think a moment of silence for everybody dealing with this right now, a moment of respect.